Hi,
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Yeah, good.
Good.
Yeah, yeah. Been busy?
No, it's
Mm,
hard, isn't it? It's
yeah,
crazy at the minute.
yeah, good.
I've started volunteering for St John's Ambulance because I wanted to do something, and that's been
Yeah,
keeping me busy actually. So that's been quite nice.
yeah. Well, I've just started a job at a mental health hospital as a kitchen assistant. So I get my
Right.
COVID vaccine tomorrow because I'm frontline. So
Yeah, I think I'm going to get mine next week. Yeah,
yeah, I'll
yeah.
get that
Well, that's
tomorrow.
good.
Yeah. So let's get started. So
All right.
where did it all start for you in terms of performing and that? Was it something you always wanted to do?
No, it wasn't. Not really. I worked in advertising when I was in my early 20s, and
Yeah.
because of working in advertising, I got a job at the Nottingham Playhouse doing their publicity and stuff, and saw loads of shows there, and suddenly thought, damn, I think I want to tell those stories. So I went to drama school at 24, which is a bit older than other people, I suppose. But I'm kind of glad in a way. I had a bit of life experience and
Mhm.
did some normal work, and but I'd always had a passion for theatre. I'd always done a bit of Amdram and stuff. And I think I'm as much of a lover of performing as I am watching other people perform. So it's an all-round love for it, really.
Yeah. Yeah. What was your first job out of drama school?
Say again?
What
Well,
was
my
your
first
first
job?
job out of drama school? Acting job, yeah.
My first job was in a TV series called Playing the Field. And I was it was about a female football team. And whilst there was some quite famous, sort of quite big stars in it, Leslie Sharp was in it and Melanie Hill and got a few others. And they were the kind of main stars. And I was one of the, had a smaller part, but I was in 6 episodes, which was just like the most fantastic learning ground for me to work with these really brilliant, successful women and guys. So that took me about 8 months of work, which was brilliant. Just a really great way to learn the ropes. It's a bit like driving a car, isn't it? You know, you can learn, but you've got to get in it and do it yourself. And that's what that job felt like for me.
Yeah, good. So most people know you for your journey with Mamma Mia.
Yeah.
How long were you in the show for? In total?
Well, I had a relationship with it for 10 years.
Yeah.
And I think I did 4 or 5 years on tour and then 2 years in town. But
Yeah.
it was over a kind of 10-year period. It wasn't continuous. So yeah, it's been in my life a long time.
And what
I
was that
loved it.
like? 'Cause
I
obviously,
absolutely loved it.
yeah. What was it like? Because obviously Mamma Mia is such a big show, you know, not just here in the UK, but around the globe. What was it like sort of being that small part of it for such a long time?
Yeah, it felt really precious. I think that people can become quite blasé about things like that. And I think that Mamma Mia is a bit of a kind of love-hate thing. Some people love it, some people don't really get it or like it. But you're right, it's a small cog in a very big sort of machine. And it felt like a real privilege, to be honest with you. I love ABBA's music. It's a cracking part to play. There aren't that many for older women in musical theatre. They're often quite younger women. So yeah, and coming from a straight acting background, the storyline for Donna is just brilliant, the kind of arc of her story. And to travel around the world with my husband playing Sam was a real treat. Yeah, I had a ball. I had the best time of my life, I think.
Yeah. So
And
what was it
now
like?
in this situation, you go, God, you can take that stuff for granted. You try not to. But my God, I can't wait for things to
Yeah.
change and to be in a place where we can do that again.
Yeah, I went to the Palladium in October to see Songs for a New World.
How was that?
It was amazing. It was such. I mean, I've been to I went to the Watermill Theatre in September of last year to see Bloodshot. So that was my sort of first time back in the theatre since lockdown. But to be back in a
Yeah.
West End theatre, something like the
Yeah.
Palladium was such an amazing experience, and the
Was it
energy.
emotional?
Yeah, the energy in that auditorium from both audience and cast was so different to what I'd experienced before, because you could tell everyone was just so glad to be back.
I think you're right. Yeah. I think when we come back, I think going to the theatre is going to feel, it's always a special occasion, but I can't wait to sit in an auditorium, but yeah, it's going to be really special. How brilliant that you got to do something before this.
Yeah.
I think the most difficult of lockdowns, this one feels like the hardest one of all of them, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I've seen a few sort of virtual performances as well. I saw the Nottingham Playhouse panto.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, saw that, and that was very good. Yeah, I really enjoyed that. And I've seen
Great.
a few in that. So what was it like, sort of, 'cause obviously your career started in straight theatre, like acting and plays and that. What was it like sort of transitioning from straight acting into musical theatre? Because I can imagine that was a bit of a challenge when you were so used to doing just acting, and now all of a sudden you've got to sort of sing.
Yeah. I mean, the main thing is that the storytelling has always got to come first for me. I think regardless of whether you belt out a tune or you do it gently, storytelling is paramount for me. Storytelling over singing in a way. I would rather hear somebody falter and be true than just have God-given chops, which is not to be sniffed at. It's an amazing, wonderful thing. But if you can combine the two, then that's brilliant. But the thing that really struck me about moving over to kind of MT was the discipline that's required. I think that some straight actors in the past have been a little bit disparaging about musical theatre because it can seem a bit jazz hands, and it is, and that's rather glorious actually. But the thing for me was, as an actor, I know that I, from experience, would roll up with a bit ill, bit of a hangover, a couple of fags, throats going, not very well. Oh, I'll bang out the play, I'll be all right. No chance of that with musicals. You've got to take much more care of you, certainly as you get older, much more care of your body. The discipline is so much harder. You're singing, dancing, acting, so much more to think about. So yeah, it was a shock to the system, but then I thought, well, I've got two choices here. I either embrace this fully and take care of my instrument, take care of myself, and do it, or don't bother with this line of work,
How did you get into musical theatre? How did that transition happen? What was your sort of...
Well, I trained in, I did straight theatre at Guildford, but Guildford's quite one of those great schools, and I think all drama schools do it now. They say, well, yeah, you're a straight actor, but you better learn an instrument, a language to sing, dance, horse ride, and everything else. So I did have some training in that world, and I joined the kind of drama school, the singing groups, did some concerts. I'd always been in a band as a youngster, so music had always been part of my life. But I wanted to be a very serious actor. That was my kind of ambition. So I said, I'm going to do the straight acting course. And I did, I came out of college and did a few kind of singing gigs, and it was always in the background. Then I did a play at Nottingham, actually, where I'd worked before I became an actor, called Satin and Steel, which was about a nightclub singing duo, Tina Satin and Vince Steele. And obviously I played Tina Satin, and it was about this young woman who wanted to be a singer, and a sort of beautiful romance at the same time. And my agent came and said, oh, I didn't realise you could really sing. Great, do you want to go up for some musicals? And I was like, okay. And the first thing that came up that was of any significance and that I got was Billy Elliot. And that was a brilliant kind of journey into MT, because it's a brilliant play, an amazing story. And I'm not from Newcastle, but I'm from a working class mining village, and it really resonated with me. So it felt like a really good step into that world. I thought Billy Elliot was a fantastic musical. So that's where it began. And after that, it was like, yeah, West End, jazz hands, get your singing repertoire up to scratch and all that sort of stuff,
So obviously Mamma Mia took you all around the world for 6 years. What are some of your sort of favourite moments from your journey with that show?
What's amazing is when you go on tour with a show, you kind of get, it's not like going on holiday, you get sort of to do things that perhaps as a tourist you wouldn't. So we had really random stuff that I found myself in really random situations, like when we were in Korea, which I absolutely love. Have you seen Parasite, the movie?
I haven't, no.
It's really, I mean, if you've got any interest in Korea, which people sort of vaguely have, it's a really good insight into that world. It's such a mad, alien, foreign, different, wonderful place to Britain, to England. And we were there, and I suddenly found myself in this really posh hills in what can only be described as sort of like the Beverly Hills of Korea, having supper with the ambassadors from Kuwait, Iraq, and somewhere, I can't remember else, and just having this random meal with all these people. And it's because of Mamma Mia that you find yourselves in these really odd situations. And then we all got really pissed and went downstairs in this guy's massive house, and I sang karaoke with the ambassador of Kuwait. And that's the kind of thing that you go, how did that happen? How did I start singing Wuthering Heights with this man that I don't know? And there was loads of incidences of that, just these random events, meeting all these different people because I was in this show that was so universally loved. And just going to, I mean, I would never go to Korea. I don't think you'd go there on holiday, but I spent 6 months in Korea, and it was just amazing. And then other cities that I loved, like Johannesburg, and I loved Hong Kong and Singapore, and all these places that what's great as an actor is if you go on holiday as an actor, you're normally not earning money, but I was there earning money, which felt like a kind of double win, really. So yeah, I had some Had some really good times.
So how does touring the UK differ from touring internationally? Because obviously you did the UK tour of Mamma Mia as well. Are there sort of differences when you're going abroad with the show to touring in the UK, or is
Yeah.
it sort of similar?
I think that UK audiences abroad are politer, and that's no detriment to the English. I love English crowds, but there's a kind of etiquette. I mean, in Switzerland particularly, they're very quiet, and some of the Southeast Asian countries, they're respectfully quiet, and they laugh at different things. Some jokes, certainly with translation, jokes translate differently. Yeah. At one point, I think Tanya says, "Oh, Donnie, you are a dark horse," and for some reason in Korean, the translation was absolutely hilarious. Jokes like, "You wait 20 years for a dad and 3 come along at once," don't work in Switzerland, where there's no problem with public transport. They didn't get that. But I really like British audiences. I think Mamma Mia is so old now and so familiar that when audiences come, they sort of own it. They know the movie, they know the show, they know what they're going to get. So there's a kind of real party atmosphere, which I can't wait to sort of see return. The great thing about being abroad is that you stay in lovely hotels and you get to travel around and see wonderful touristy things. The great thing about being in Britain is it's familiar, and the audiences, I would say, are probably the best in the world for my money. I think they're brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, I've had the pleasure of seeing the show 10 or 12 times. I've lost count
now. Have you?
Yeah, I've seen you 4 times as Donna, because I came on the 20th anniversary as well to see it.
Wasn't it brilliant?
Yeah, I saw the matinee, but I mean, when I was standing outside waiting to go into the theatre, Kim Ismay, who was obviously Tanya for a few years, was standing outside, and Lara Mulcahy, who was Rosie in that, they were sort of standing outside as well. And as a massive fan of the show, to be in the presence of people who've done it before and to watch on such a special day was quite a big thing for me.
I'm so glad that you got to see it. Oh, that's great.
Yeah, because I opened the same year I was born, so it's even more special. That,
oh my God.
1999, yeah. I was born 17th of May, they were April the 6th. There's no like a small gap between the two shows opening. So it's quite, and I've seen the show on my birthday before, so it's quite a special show to me. And it's certainly one of the ones I'm going to go back to again once it reopens. I'll be back.
Have you just seen it in the West End then? Is that what, have you not seen it anywhere else?
I've seen it, I saw it in Bournemouth when it first went on tour with Helen Hobson. And then I saw it in Southampton last year, when it was on the tour previously, saw it twice there.
Right.
But the most of the time I've seen it in London, I normally sort of shoot up to London last minute and get tickets and that. I think I saw you when you first came back to London. I saw you about 4 times in that year, at the beginning of the contract and then towards the end of that. So it's sort of a big thing for me.
That's great.
Yeah. What was the first show you remember seeing when you're growing up?
Well, I went to see Pantos a lot. That was a kind of big thing for me. But I think the show that had the most impact for me, because the Pantos were kind of something we did with the family, but the thing that had the most impact upon me was probably King Lear. I saw an amateur version of it, and I didn't know anything about Shakespeare at all. But I remember, and they did it really simply because they were an Amdram group and they had no set. And I think Amdram can be sort of laughed at sometimes, but Amdram's where it all starts. And I think, the word amateur in French means something like for the love of or something like that. So I saw this Amdram show and it just blew me away. I just couldn't believe what I was seeing, really. And then I auditioned to join this amateur group and I did a Chekhov play. And I had no idea about Chekhov. I didn't really know what I was doing. And I kind of got stuck in, and all the kind of older ladies in the company took me aside and gave me short shrift and told me I was doing it wrong, which was great learning. I'm from Nottingham, and I did a play called The Seagull. And I still say it now, I still say seagull. And they said, "Darling, you can't, you have to say seagull. It's, Chekhov." And I was like, "All right, write that down." But I saw a lot of classics when I was younger, and that really had a bearing on me. I think classical theatre feels like the kind of beginning of it all, really. But they're the ones that had the most impact upon me, apart from Panto, which is kind of opposite ends of the scale, really, and yet they both are really important, I think, in storytelling. I just did a Panto, as you know, I did the Panto at the Playhouse, and I had a ball. I had the best time. It's just a shame we didn't get to do it live. Just got to do it once, which was weird.
My local Panto down in Newbury, they managed to open. They started off with an audience, but thankfully they filmed it on the first night. So when we got put into tier 4, they released it, and so I ended up watching it on Christmas Eve, and it was really good because obviously, being in my local one, I've sort of gone to it for the past 20 odd years.
Yeah,
I was quite sad about this sort of being the first year I wouldn't go. So sort of to see it in some concept was quite nice, actually.
Loads of people did that as well. I think loads. I mean, I've got mates all around the world, and what was great was they all said, "Oh, well, we'll pay to see the show." And there was, I think, from what Adam was saying, who runs the Playhouse, there's been tons of support for people like you, people paying to go. Do you know, I'm still going to pay to see it, and it's been so important because theatres are obviously been crippled by what's happening. So yeah, it's great. So you were in Newbury. Did you see Assassins then? If you
I did, yeah. I think in the first week I saw it. Yeah, I go to the Watermill quite a bit, being down the road.
It's great, isn't it?
It's a fantastic venue, and their shows there are really good. I mean, it wasn't until a few years ago where I realised how big that theatre is in the industry. Like, so many people know it, and a lot of their shows go beyond. You know, when they did Adelaide there, that went on tour, and that was really good. And Assassins, I'd sort of heard of it beforehand, but I wasn't massively familiar with it. So I went along with my mum, mainly because you were in it, and obviously I'd seen you in Mamma Mia and that.
Yeah.
So it was really good.
What do you think of it?
I enjoyed it. It was good. Once I got my head around it, it was
it's kind of a bit mad, isn't it?
Yeah. I sort of came out not realising how many presidents had been assassinated. Like, I knew the obvious ones, but I didn't realise so many presidents had been or attempted. It was quite amazing, actually. My mum was saying the same thing and that. But obviously, prior to that, you were in Mamma Mia. So what was it like transferring from doing such a big show like that in big theatres all around the world to going into Assassins, which is the polar opposite of Mamma Mia, in such a small, intimate venue? What was that like? Was it?
Well, I mean, the Watermill's quite terrifying because when I got there, the audience was so bloody close. I mean, it was like, oh my God. There's something, because if you get a big, the biggest crowd I think we did with Mamma Mia was like 5,000 or 6,000. And there's a kind of anonymity, which can sometimes be quite nice. And I admit, I was pretty nervous to be so intimate with an audience after such a long time. And I was nervous about new material after such a long time. And a different style of singing. I mean, sometimes, like you say, a million miles from singing Mamma Mia tunes. But I absolutely loved it. I was sad, but sort of ready to leave Mamma Mia. And it felt like, I suppose I felt like I was unruffling my feathers a bit, because I'd loved doing what I was doing. But then I was like, oh, I can do this with my voice, and I can do this. I mean, and as you saw, Sarah J. Moore was so different to Donna. And it felt really exciting and quite terrifying. I mean, the first night, and as you saw, there was so much to remember, so much technical stuff in that tiny space. And I had it all written down on, and I've never done this before, I had to have it written down on notes. I was like, pick up triangle, put lockdown, pick up that change. Thank God there was no costume changes. But it did literally feel like I was unfurling my feathers and going, oh, look at all these creative juices that are flowing. And I absolutely loved it, because I was scared about leaving Mamma Mia. I thought, oh God, what if I don't work? And what if I can't do anything else? But it did feel really exciting and quite terrifying, because the audience are right there in that theatre. But it was brilliant. I love that place. I think you're right. It's really well known and loved, and I had a ball there.
So I think they missed out on the funding from the government. So they've been doing some fundraising and things like that. But I went there last year to see Bloodshot when they first reopened. That was really good, just to be back in such a nice space with the guy who was doing playing the sort of lead character was Sam in Mamma Mia back in sort of the early 2000s.
Oh, who was that?
I can't remember his name, but I think Louise Plowright was his Donna, but he played Sam all the way back sort of earlier on
oh wow.
Yeah, so that was quite nice. There's been a few shows that I've seen over the years where people have been in Mamma Mia and that. Last year I went to the Nuffield in Southampton to see a play about Boris Johnson. And then one of the guys in that, it was Harry Bright a few years, quite back in the early days and things like that.
Oh,
so
wow.
It's sort of nice to see people who've been in Mamma Mia and do other stuff than that. Especially something so different to Mamma Mia. Actually. But that was nice.
When did you first see Mamma Mia? How old were you when you first saw Mamma Mia?
It was in 2013, so I'd probably been about 14 by then. And Helen Hobson.
And did you love it immediately? Did you go, oh God, I love this?
It was a show that I wanted to see for ages and been begging people to take me to see it. I loved it. And Helen Hobson was my first one. And then I saw it, I think I was sort of a week before cast change. So I remember speaking to the guy who played Sky at the end, or who played Sky, speaking to me at stage door. And I was like, oh, what are you doing next? And he's like, don't know. That's the perks of being an actor, don't know. I was like, oh, when do you finish? Next week. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I saw it the year after with Diane Pilkington. And yeah, I've seen Helen twice, Diane twice, and you 4 times.
Yes.
So I'm sort of ticking off. And Sharon Sexton on the tour I saw last year.
Of course, yeah.
Which is amazing because she is the first of all the Donnas I've seen before have been English, but she was Irish. So it was sort of nice to see a different sort of there are a lot of Irishisms and sort of words and that they have in Ireland that she sort of slotted into the scripts and that.
Well, the original Donna was Irish as well, which is why some of those Irishisms have stayed. Like, what are some of the? What does she say? Malarkey. Donna says malarkey at one point, and she says she was just growing up is all. So there was a few things that when I was reading the script, they were Irishisms, but it's great that she put a few more in. That's fab. I'd like to have seen that.
And she is really good. You were very good as well, but she was really good as well.
Yeah, I heard she was fantastic. Yeah.
So what are your sort of favourite scenes or songs from Mamma Mia? What are like your favourite moments?
Well, I think the obvious one is Winner, of course, because it's such a beautiful kind of monologue and piece of storytelling. But I really liked singing Waterloo. I loved being on stage with everybody else. I sort of pretended at that point that I was really a pop star, not an actor. Which is great when you're doing it in an arena. We did a bull ring in Portugal, and then we took over this bull ring, which was mental. It's the most unglamorous place in the world, but amazing. Like I was in the posh Matador's dressing room. It was like a bloody jail cell. It was concrete and nothing in there, and smelt of like literally bullshit. And it was the most unglamorous place. But when you step out into this bull ring arena, it was like boom. So to sing Waterloo there was just like, I'm going to pretend that I'm a pop star. And so I loved singing Waterloo. I just thought it was so much fun. And I really like Money as well. I think it's such a really brilliantly constructed song. But without being cliched, Winner's the one, isn't it? Winner's kind of, and Slipping, every time I said goodbye to a Sophie, because I had quite a lot of daughters through the years, it's a really hard song to sing at that point. It's a bit like Billy. Did you ever see Billy Elliot?
No, I never got around to seeing that. No, never got to see it.
There's a bit in that, the last time I sang I'll have missed you growing and I'll have missed you crying to the sun as you're doing your last performance. Such real chokers, But Winner's got to be the best one, I think, really. It's just, what a song to have written. I mean,
it's an
just mad,
song.
really.
Yeah, I mean,
it's a stunning song, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the whole finale bit as well is sort of always the bit that I look forward to the most. Like when we get,
especially, I guess did you see it at the Prince of Wales?
No, no. I saw it after it left. But
so the Prince of Wales, there used to be sorry, go on.
There's a few videos online of the finale at the Prince of Wales, and I always sort of wish I'd seen it there, especially with the light up floor and everything like that.
And coming up in the lift, that was brilliant. In fact, when I went back to it, I was like, is there no lift for the Dynamos at the end? I was like, oh, gutted. It was brilliant. And the lit up floor, that was so good, wasn't it? Forgot about that.
They didn't take that to the novella, did they?
No, they just it's about space. It's about the space of the theatre, and they didn't have the depth and something. And obviously on tour, you can't do that either.
Yeah. So if you could play any role in musical theatre or even in straight theatre, what would it be? What are your dream roles? Where would you like to go next?
I'm a huge fan of Sondheim, so I think something in Into the Woods would be nice. Witch, Baker's Wife, something like that I would love to do. I wouldn't mind going, I've never done any Disney. I wouldn't mind having a go at something like Ursula, the Sea Witch. Yeah. That would be fun.
I thought you were going to say Elsa there for a minute. I was like, they've cast that already.
I know, a bit too old for that, dear. I was meant to be doing Piaf before lockdown and playing Marlene Dietrich, which would be, it's kind of not really a musical, but it is, but But I think something Sondheim would be great fun. But then I also loved, did you see Fun Home at the Vic when that came? No. I mean, there's so much brilliant new writing coming out, I think. And I think in lockdown, people have been quite creative. But if I had to say one thing, I'd say it'd probably be something Sondheim for me. I just adore him. I think he's brilliant. Yeah.
Have you seen Come From Away? Did you get around to seeing that in the end?
Yeah, because Kate Graham's in
Diane.
it.
I'd like to see you play Diane. I think that would be...
that would be good. Yeah, I'd like to do that. So I saw, because Kate Graham's in it now, of course, you've seen her. It's a great show, isn't it?
Yeah, I love it. I can't wait. I mean, they were bringing it back in concert formation in February, but I'm sure that'll probably get pushed back. But I mean...
I think so.
Yeah. And I can't wait. That's another show, I think. There's so many moments in that show that I think will resonate a lot more now with what we've been through.
Oh, you're so right. Oh my God,
I think
yeah.
Claude's final line that says, tonight we honour what was lost, but we also remember what we found. And I think that's going to...
Bloody hell. Yeah, you're so
Looking back
right.
on
And
obviously what's happened.
yeah. And you know what as well? I think that the whole thing about Come From Away and what happened, the reason it's so similar to now. It's about people being kind and generous at a time when people are really struggling. I did my first volunteering day yesterday at St John's Ambulance, helping with the vaccine. I've become a volunteer vaccinator, and I don't deserve any credit because I was there in a very small capacity, but who deserves credit was all those nurses that were there who have worked tirelessly. And I was so humbled by what I saw. And it's exactly what you're talking about. It's putting everybody else before yourself, and Come From Away is all about that.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. I think, oh my God, I can't imagine what it's going to be like seeing that show. Wow, you're so right. That line is so brilliant.
Where I work at the moment, all of our patients have gone down with it. And they've all tested, all 24 of them. And Jesus. I was working last Saturday and working in the kitchens. If I thought my job was hard, when I take the food out onto the wards and look through and see all the staff in their hazmat suits, and I mean, I can be a care assistant, but I look through and what they do every time I go. I've been there for a few months now, but I always look at what they do and think it's amazing. But last week when I went and seeing them in their hazmat suits and all the PPE, dealing with 24 people who've all tested positive. God. And then there's me putting the food outside and legging it.
But you're doing it. You're putting the food outside. Someone's got to do that, and that's really important. Good for you. That's really brilliant.
Yeah. So what are some of your favourite show tunes? Five of your favourite show tunes.
Oh my God. Do you know, shamefully, I'm really crap at show tunes. I'm really terrible at knowing. And if you mention them, I go, yeah, I love that. Oh, I love that. Oh, I love that. But at the moment I'm listening to I Miss the Mountains from Next to Normal, which is just, I mean, there's a show, just knockout. I love that song. I love Last Midnight from Into the Woods. I like old stuff. I auditioned for Regent's Park recently and sang You'll Never Walk Alone, which again has a real poignancy, but they changed it and they brought it really low, and they did it with a northern accent, like a kind of rousing sort of pub tune. Because I was never a big fan of that song. It was all a bit kind of when you walk, and I was like, oh, not really for me. Suddenly it had this, again, just that idea of hold your head up high and don't be afraid of the dark, and singing it with a kind of northern accent. I sort of totally fell back in love with that song. I really did. I thought it was just, it blew my mind. Me and the Sky, I think, from Come From Away is such a weird, musical songs don't sound like that, and suddenly they do, with all these really random lyrics. I think that's brilliant. And I really love the Ballad of Sweeney Todd. I remember seeing that when I was at drama school. I came to the National to see the show, and I was just, it's almost opera, isn't it, that number? It's kind of got a lot of Sondheim can be like that, and it just again, songs that just sort of stay with you. But I'm trying to learn some new songs in lockdown, and it's really nice to sort of start to, because I don't know a lot of musical songs, to be honest with you. So it's nice to discover them, nice to spend some time discovering them. Yeah,
I mean, when we first went into lockdown last year, I sort of spent the entire time listening to new musicals, discovering new stuff. And I just found so many new incredible songs shows I just didn't even know existed. Some that I'd always sort of put off. I'd heard of it and was like, no, that won't be for me. But I listened to it. Like In the Heights, I thought that wouldn't be for me, but I listened to it.
Yeah.
I thought, actually,
I mean, that's just great, isn't it? Yeah. And obviously Hamilton. Say again?
Catch Me If You Can, that another show that was on Broadway.
Oh yeah, I don't know. Yeah, is it good? Good music.
Yeah, it's better than I thought it was. It's quite upbeat. Okay. I can picture a lot of the dance numbers being quite good. But I've been trying to get songs together because at some point this year I'm going to get my vocal reel put together. Because I graduated with a musical theatre degree last year.
Where from?
Well, I didn't take the drama school route. I went to Solent Uni in Southampton.
Okay.
But that's sort of the route I took. It was really good. It was fun. So
do you want to be a performer, or are you an actor normally?
That's
are you normally an actor?
What I want to eventually, I'd like to be at some point in the next decade. Yeah.
Okay.
When theatres reopen, that's sort of my goal. Yeah. I had an audition last year for a panto, on the North Pier in Blackpool, auditioned for that.
Ah, yeah.
That's sort of my first one, but getting a vocal reel put together at some point this year.
Good
with
idea.
James Willoughby Moore from Mamma Mia. He's done my vocal reel at some point.
Oh, great.
So I've been trying to get songs together for that. I've got about 4 A4 pages of songs.
Oh my God. Wow. That's amazing. You should listen to Fun Home. I think you'd like it. Did you know anything about it?
I've heard of it, but I wouldn't say I was that familiar with it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's worth a listen, I think. It's got some really beautiful songs in it. I mean, it's a beautiful show. I mean, I cried my eyes out, but then that comes easily to me. I cry at adverts. I mean, I'm probably not a very good judge, but I do cry a lot at shows. Do you know what? Even though I'm an actor, and I think you sound similar to me, I'm really impressed by actors. I'm really in awe of other actors. And when the overture strikes up and these people come on stage, and there's something really vulnerable about being an actor. You're basically going, watch this, I'm trying to share something with you. It's quite a vulnerable place to be, and it just moves me to tears almost every time. I think actors are brilliant, even though I'm one myself. It's weird.
Now, I watched the recording of Sunset Boulevard from the Curve in Leicester recently, and I remember seeing it on stage, but the talent in that show, like Via Jones and Adam Pearce and like Danny Mack, that talent was incredible. And they did such a unique sort of staging for that show for virtual. It's so different to most virtual performances.
I did a concert whilst I was rehearsing for Panto with Sandra Marvin and Rosalie Craig. We just did a quick online concert, and I mean, those two, just the talent is just really amazing. They really blew me away. Rosalie Craig's just like off the scale.
I saw her in Company. She was really good.
She's amazing.
Yeah. It wasn't my favourite show, but I mean, I enjoyed it. It was
no,
good.
me neither. No, I get it. Yeah, I saw Follies, and I didn't particularly like that. I know everybody raved about it, but the performances.
Yeah, they were really good. I mean, Patti LuPone for Company. She's obviously a legend in musical theatre. Just to be in her presence when she doesn't. I
saw her in Sunset Boulevard before you were born, probably. I saw her in the West End in Sunset Boulevard. I mean, Jesus Christ. I know Rhea Jones is brilliant. Don't get me wrong, but oh my God, it's Patti LuPone. She's almost scary on stage. There's something kind of almost confrontational about her. Oh, she's brilliant.
I was waiting for someone's phone to go off to see if she stopped the show like she did when she did Gypsy. I was waiting for that, but no, thankfully no phone went off. So while we're on performances, whose performances had the biggest impact on you?
Oh, God. Well, I mean, literally the biggest impact is an actor called Barry Rutter, because I went to see his theatre company and I was so blown away with what I saw. I wrote to this guy for 5 years to get a job. Yeah. And because of that, I met my husband. And because of that, my career's path sort of changed. So I'd say literally upon me, I would say him. But my favourite actor is probably Mark Rylance, who I've seen a lot at the Globe. And I saw him in Jerusalem, in Town. I almost feel like he's like a sort of magical being, not of this earth. He is... I can't take my eyes off him on stage. I don't know what he's doing. I just think he's absolutely mind-blowing. And also, in terms of MT and women, I'd say Jenna Russell for me, which is why it's a thrill to hopefully work with her on Piaf. I just think she's awesome. I think she's dead talented. And again, talking about storytelling through song, she's a master at it. So those two for me, really.
I mean, for me, Earl Carpenter, who did Les Mis for Christ knows how many years, is sort of a big. He actually came into uni, my uni, to do a workshop. To do a workshop with us, and he was meant to be directing our third year show as well. Then he went off and did Les Mis instead. But he came in and did a workshop with us, and he talked about 40 minutes talking about his life story as an actor and different stories and that, which I thought was incredible. But we managed to pester him into singing Stars, which was a bit.
Did you?
Yeah. Originally, he wanted to do his go to audition song, but we were like, no, Stars, please.
Do sing it.
So everyone he went, oh, only if I find a good backing track. And so we all got our phones out and frantically tried to find a good backing track for him.
That's brilliant.
And we plugged one in, and he's like, yeah, go on. But you could tell he played that character so many times because the way he just went into it. During the overture for Stars, he was talking to us, and then he just went straight into Javert, and it was amazing. He wasn't mic'd up or anything, or he didn't do a vocal warm up. He just went into it, and it was
Bloody hell.
still incredible.
Oh my God.
And everyone sort of really enjoyed it, but I'd always been a massive fan of him. So I was sort of on the edge of my seat with my mouth open, and everyone was looking at me. It was a bit weird. And it's like, at the end, someone sat next to me and went, Dom, I could tell you quite enjoyed that, didn't you? And I was like, yeah.
What a treat. What a lovely thing to have done. He just did it and sang it. That's great.
Yeah, and he became an honorary professor for our uni course as well. He had a bit of an award ceremony for him and that. So we're quite in close contact with him. I mean, Catherine Barnes from Cats came in and did a Cats workshop with us.
Oh, that's great.
Because we did Cats in our second year. That was our second year show.
Wow.
I was Gus, the older one. Everyone I get is always sort of older. Gus in Cats. Our third year show was meant to be Working, which was done at the Southwark Playhouse a few years ago.
Right.
And I was meant to be doing that Theatre Royal in Winchester. And I was meant to be playing Joe, which is like a 70-year-old retired fireman. And sort of every character in me is sort of old. I'm not playing young people. So I'm sort of, when I write down a list of roles that I want to play as an actor, I'm sort of jumping straight forward to like 50, 60-year-old roles because I'm thinking, well, that's going to be what I see. I've got Thénardier down, I've got Harry Bright down, that's that I do.
Oh, yeah, you'd be good, Harry, yeah.
I quite like that, and Panther I want to do, but yeah, it's been good. And so how's the past few months been for you, sort of being out, not being able to perform and that, because I can imagine.
Yeah. Well, when lockdown happened, my voiceover agent rang me and said, build a home studio immediately. And I was like, how do you do that? So I did. I built one in the shed at the bottom of the garden and soundproofed it and managed to get quite a lot of work over the summer, thank God.
Yeah.
Doing voiceovers and various other bits and pieces, which was great. And then I got a job as a COVID tester. And then just before I was meant to start, I got Panto. So I've kind of managed, last year I sort of managed to get enough work coming in, and I took a few courses online and was fairly self-motivated. But I've got to admit, since I've come back from Panto, January is a tough month, I think, for a lot of people. It's cold and damp and it's dark and it's after Christmas and there's a death rate and infection rates rising. The vaccine's starting to come out, but I think that January is a tough month. I'm waiting to hear about work, but I know that no theatre can offer or announce just yet. Yeah. So at the moment, I'm, holding my breath a little bit and just trying to stay sane and do all the kind of things that you can to keep mental health strong. Yeah. I feel really grateful as well. You don't have to look far to hear much more difficult stories than your own. So, well, I certainly don't. I realise that I'm lucky. But to be honest with you, I just miss people. Yeah. I just miss seeing people and hugging them and meeting for a coffee and just the normal stuff. It's not even... And also I miss the theatre so much. So I've had not a bad lockdown and the whole year's not been bad, but at the moment it just feels like we're having to sort of just grip on a bit tight until change comes,
I mean, my whole family, we all tested positive in November. And that was sort of such a tough 14 days. Because my mum had it back in April of last year and was in hospital with it for a week. And then cut forward to sort of a few months later, and then I went down with it. My dad did, my stepmom did. My stepmum's dad sadly passed away from it in November. God. So the past few months have been quite tough, really. We got there in the end, and that 14, I was lucky that I got away with it quite lightly in terms of symptoms and that. So I probably had symptoms for about 4 days and I was fine. But my dad and my stepmum, they were awful. They had it really badly, up in bed with it for a week, and then my nan tested positive as well, but thankfully she didn't have any symptoms, because I mean she's in her 70s, so she wouldn't have got through that lightly if she'd got it bad. So but I mean January is always a tough month, but now it sort of feels even harder when you sort of seeing the death rate go up and that.
I know.
And January is always a slow month anyway, so I'm like, speed along a bit, we're only 2 weeks in.
Yeah, it's my birthday in a couple of weeks, I'm a bit like, oh really? I suppose I'll probably just have some champagne anyway. Why not? Maybe the impeachment for Trump will go through, and that's one small piece of good news for January.
I'm waiting for Boris to quit. That's what I'm waiting for.
Then maybe. I mean, it's funny. Keir Starmer was apparently at the vaccination centre down the road. And I was like, "Come on, pull your finger out, Keir, crack on." But I mean, I think good news is coming. I think change is coming, as it always inevitably does. We just all got to hold fast. But I think, you know, coming back to what you said, I think coming out the other side of this, I think, you know, thinking about Come From Away and various song lyrics, I think there's going to be a lot of kindness and support in the world coming out the other side of this. And I hope long may that continue, you know.
Yeah, I definitely won't take theatre for granted again. I think, I think I'm lucky that, because went to Southampton, I was around the corner from the Mayflower, which obviously has all the big shows going to it. So I was very lucky to have got to see some amazing shows. But I think when the industry shut, I didn't realise how much. I think that's when I realised how much it meant to me when it suddenly wasn't there. I've always loved theatre, but when it suddenly went, I was like, right, oh, that's something I never thought would happen.
Yeah.
And then I remember I think the industry initially thought it's just going to be for a few weeks. I think everyone was hoping we shut for a week, and then we opened up and we'll be back to what we was. But then a few months later, or nearly a year later, we're still shut, and it's tough. Yeah.
And I think that it's not going to be a kind of switch on of a light and we're back again. It's going to be a slow sort of process going forward, and it's going to kind of grow.
I think that's what we were hoping for as well.
I
think the industry was hoping for a switch on of the lights and then we'd all be back again. I think we quickly realised that actually that wasn't going to be the case, and rightly so. You know, we need to put people's safety first.
Yeah.
You see shows and that announcing their returns, and you're just thinking things like Mamma Mia for June, and
I know, come on.
Shows, I mean, the tour's been pushed right back to next year, which is quite.
There's talk about maybe something happening at the end of this year abroad, but I don't know.
Didn't it go to Japan during lockdown last year? Judy Crane opened up in Japan, I think.
That's right.
Audience.
Yeah.
And you got a ticket, flew over just to see it. I mean, I wouldn't have understood a word. But
just to get you fixed,
Anyway, I think that's it for questions. Thank you for talking to me. It's been really.
Oh, you're so welcome.
That's all right. But take care. I hope to see you on stage very soon. At some point, I'll see you on stage.
Yeah, let me know when you could. Yeah, if you're coming to see anything I'm in, let me know. It'd be nice to meet you in person.
Yeah, I'll drop you a message.
That'd be really great.
Okay. Thank you.